Christmas. The word conjures a cascade of familiar, comforting images. The warm glow of tree lights, the scent of pine and cinnamon, carols floating on the frosty air, and a sense of universal goodwill. It is marketed and experienced as the most wonderful time of the year, a pristine season of generosity, family, and sacred joy. Yet, like a perfectly wrapped gift hiding something unexpected beneath its bows, the history and fabric of Christmas are interwoven with strands of darkness, ancient, psychological, and cultural. To pull at these strands is not to dismantle the joy of the season, but to understand the profound, often unsettling human realities that gave it shape and continue to haunt its edges. The first layer of darkness lies buried in the holiday's very foundations, long before the advent of Christianity. In the depths of the Northern Hemisphere's winter solstice, around December 21st, ancient peoples faced a profound existential terror. The sun was dying, the days growing shorter and colder, the world sinking into a lifeless gloom. Their celebrations, the Roman Saturnalia, the Norse Yule, the Celtic festivals, were not mere parties, but acts of desperate magic and defiant ritual. Saturnalia, a festival of role reversal where masters served slaves and social order dissolved, was a week of licensed chaos meant to placate the god Saturn and ensure the sun's return. It was a time of drunkenness, gambling, and sexual license, a societal pressure valve that acknowledged the darkness by temporarily embracing chaos. The Norse celebrated Yule, a period when the veil between worlds was believed to be thin. But it wasn't just friendly spirits who crossed over. This was the time when the Wild Hunt, a ghostly, spectral procession of the dead, led by Odin or other folklore figures, would rage across the sky. To be caught outdoors during the Wild Hunt meant being swept away to the land of the dead. The Yule log was lit not just for warmth, but as a protective beacon against these very spirits. Similarly, the figure of Frau Perchta in Alpine folklore, who would visit during the 12 nights between Christmas and Epiphany, would slice open the bellies of those who had been lazy or disobedient, stuffing them with straw and pebbles. Here, in the primordial past, we find the true origin of the Christmas spirit, not just goodwill, but a potent mix of fear, superstition, and rituals for survival against the literal and metaphorical dark. Christianity's adoption of this date for Christ's nativity was a strategic absorption of these pagan tides. The Church could not eradicate the powerful solstice celebrations, so it baptized them. The light of the world was presented as the theological answer to the dying sun. Yet the older darkness never fully dissipated, it simply shape-shifted. The medieval Christmas retained a rowdy, threatening edge. In Britain, mumming and wassailing involved disguised, often drunken groups demanding food and drink from the wealthy under threat of mischief or violence. This was trick-or-treating with a far more menacing tone, a legacy of the Saturnalian world turned upside down. The season was less about quiet devotion and more about a managed explosion of communal tension. Even our most beloved figures carry chilling echoes. Santa Claus, the jolly red-suited bringer of gifts, is a fusion of the historical Saint Nicholas and myriad pagan spirits. Saint Nicholas himself, while known for generosity, was also a formidable authoritarian figure. In some European traditions, notably in parts of Germany, Austria, and France, his companion was not an elf, but a monstrous sidekick. Krampus, Knecht Ruprecht, or Père Fouettard. Krampus, the horned, fur-clad demon with a long tongue and chains, is explicitly tasked with punishing naughty children, often beating them with birch rods, or, in the most frightening tales, stuffing them into his sack to be dragged to hell. This duality, the gift-giver and the punisher, reflects an older, sterner parenting philosophy rooted in fear. The message was clear: the darkness is watching, and goodness is not optional. Beyond folklore, the psychological darkness of Christmas is a modern epidemic.
The pressure to perform happiness, to create the perfect day, to exhibit familial harmony, to give and receive with unblemished joy, creates a crushing weight. For those grieving a loss, estranged from family, or struggling with financial hardship, the relentless cultural cheerfulness feels like a mockery. The Christmas blues are a well-documented phenomenon, with spikes in depression, anxiety, and loneliness. Suicide rates, contrary to popular myth, do not peak at Christmas, but the emotional strain is palpable. The season becomes a mirror, brutally reflecting life's imperfections. Fractured families gathered in tense truce, the emptiness felt in a crowded room, the anxiety of debt hidden behind stacks of gifts. This is the darkness of dissonance, where the gulf between cultural expectation and personal reality becomes a chasm. A more insidious, systemic darkness lurks in the holiday's economic engine. The modern Christmas is the climax of the consumer calendar, a festival of material acquisition that traces a direct, troubling line back to the Gilded Age. It was in the 19th century that Christmas was deliberately re-engineered from a public, sometimes rowdy celebration into a domestic, child-centered, gift-giving holiday. This was no accident. Industrialization and burgeoning department stores saw a golden opportunity. Clement Clark Moore's Visit of St. Nicholas and the popular illustrations of Thomas Nast crystallized the Santa mythos, tying childhood wonder directly to the receipt of manufactured goods. Today, this manifests in a global shadow economy of stress, exploitation, and environmental decay. The frantic Black Friday stampedes, where consumers have literally fought and died for discounts, are a grotesque parody of goodwill. The gifts we buy often come at a hidden human cost, exploited labor in factories halfway across the world, working in conditions that defy the very notion of peace on earth. And after the brief glow of unwrapping fades, we are left with mountains of waste, tons of non-recyclable wrapping paper, broken toys, and discarded electronics, the literal detritus of our forced cheer. This consumerist vortex is a darkness of emptiness, promising fulfillment but delivering clutter and guilt, fueling a cycle that benefits few and costs the planet dearly. Finally, there is the darkness of the forgotten, the excluded. Christmas is overwhelmingly portrayed as a white, middle-class, nuclear family celebration. This narrative invisibilizes a multitude of experiences. For centuries, it was a tool of colonial power imposed upon indigenous peoples to suppress their own cultures and spiritual practices. The forced merriment can be alienating for non-Christians in predominantly Christian societies, or for those from different cultural traditions. Its emphasis on family can painfully highlight the absence of chosen family or community for many in the LGBTQ+ community, especially older generations. In this way, Christmas can enforce a quiet, normative violence, casting those who do not fit its ideal into a shadow of isolation. Why confront these dark secrets? Not to extinguish the joy of carols, the beauty of light in darkness, and the genuine warmth of human connection that the season can foster. Rather, it is to reclaim Christmas as a truly human holiday, complex, profound, and resilient. By acknowledging its roots in fear and survival, we appreciate the depth of our impulse towards light and celebration. By recognizing the psychological pressures, we can extend greater kindness to ourselves and others. By questioning the consumerist machine, we can seek more meaningful ways to connect. The true magic of Christmas may lie not in a sanitized commercial fantasy, but in its ancient, primal core. The defiant act of kindling a fire, singing a song, and gathering together while the coldest, longest night closes in. It is a ritual born not from unblemished joy, but from the acknowledgement of darkness in the world, in our history, and in our own hearts. To know the dark secrets of Christmas is to celebrate with eyes wide open, transforming the holiday from a fragile fantasy into a sturdy, compassionate, and deeply human vigil for the light.